Initiates. Welcome to Section 31. It has been my privilege to be your liaison during the recruitment process. Please gather in a single file line in front of the door. In order to gain entry for Part 1 of your training, you must have your credential ready. Each of you has been provided with a pad. Please provide your credential now in the channel 00011111. Training will not begin until recruits have provided proof of person. For those recruits who have not provided proof, please find your way to the nearest airlock. There is a shuttle waiting to take you home.
Initiates, welcome to Section 31. We've locked this briefing room for external sensors. No one knows you're here, and that's exactly how it should be. You're about to embark on a journey most people in Starfleet couldn't fathom. You've been chosen because you possess something others don't. Courage without recklessness, intelligence without hubris, and loyalty tempered by pragmatism. You've heard the name Section 31. Some of you may think of it as a myth, a whispered shadow in the halls of Starfleet Command. Let me assure you, it's very real. But what you've heard is only a fraction of the truth. You're not here to join an organization. You're here to become part of an idea. Section 31 operates where Starfleet cannot, in the gray spaces between diplomacy and survival, where rules and ethics bend under the weight of necessity. Starfleet builds peace, unity, exploration. We protect the fragile foundation that allows them to do so. Over the next few hours, we'll dive deep into the genesis of Section 31, back when the Federation itself was still an experiment. You'll learn how we've adapted, grown, and yes, even stumbled. From the early covert operations that shaped the early Federation's survival to our let's say, more recent activities, which you might find controversial. That's good. Questioning everything is part of this job. But understand this. No one else shoulders the burden. We do. You'll learn names. Luther Sloan, Philippa Georgiou. You'll learn events. Some you know from sanitized Starfleet records. Others you'll be hearing for the first time. And you'll come to understand how Section 31 ensures the Federation survives, even when it means breaking the very ideals that define it. Some of you won't make it to the end of the basic. That's not a judgment. This life isn't for everyone. But if you do, you'll step into a world where we deal with threats no one else dares to face, make decisions no one else wants to make, and carry secrets no one else could bear to know. This is your first lesson, recruits. You are the last line of defense. You'll never be thanked, never be celebrated, and your failures could doom billions. Now, shall we begin? First, we'd like to bring up our historic records specialist who will explain the founding of Section 31 and the early days of the organization. I'd like to now welcome Operative Eric.
You may understand my hesitation when it comes to speaking to you. Work we do isn't simple. We're not in any official Starfleet charter. We have no name, no records, and more importantly, no oversight. We operate in the shadows, doing what needs to be done to ensure the Federation survive. Now, there are a few lines in the charter that makes allowances for bending the rules during times of extraordinary threat. Article 14, Section 31. That's where we come in. It's not a loophole. It's a mandate for survival. Sometimes it means monitoring threats before they arise. Other times it means taking action when others can't. When the Klingons began tampering with augmented human genetic material, it wasn't long before their experiments spiraled out of control. They created a plague. Something so dangerous it could have spread beyond their borders and thrown the quadrant into chaos. Officially, Starfleet provided aid. Unofficially, we were already there, containing the damage, subtly nudging events to keep the virus from spreading. Official record won't tell you that, of course, because Starfleet's hands are tied by its ideas. We're not. If the Klingons had known the full extent of what was happening, or if others had, it would have led to panic, maybe even war. We ensured that didn't happen. We allowed Dr. Phlox to be captured by the Klingons, knowing he'd soon develop a cure. The NX-01 played their part, assisting with critical data retrieval, and Lieutenant Reed, well, he's always been closer to us than he'd care to admit. Through him, we ensured the cure stayed under our control. That kind of breakthrough could be weaponized, and we couldn't take that risk. Call us what you want, but without us, the Federation wouldn't survive its infancy. Take Earth, for example. Paxton, a man driven by fear, prejudice, and a twisted sense of humanity's future. His actions threatened everything Starfleet was working towards. If he'd succeeded, it would have shattered the fragile alliances holding the Federation together. And eliminating him outright would have made him a martyr. So instead, we let Archer and his crew do the heavy lifting, when we made sure the right pieces were in place. Paxton's defeat wasn't luck. It was engineered. Lieutenant Reed was instrumental again, despite his internal conflict. Archer's unwavering idealism made him predictable, which is why it was crucial to guide him subtly. The NX-01 crew achieved what history will call a victory of principles. But the reality is, we tilted the board. It's the truth. The galaxy isn't kind to idealists. Archer's vision of unity is admirable, but someone has to pave the way for it. Someone has to handle the threats no one else can see, or is willing to see. Now, most people will never know. They'll live their lives unaware of who guards them, and that's how it should be. But make no mistake, without us, there is no Federation. We're always here, watching in the shadows. End transmission.
Thank you to that operative who we named earlier. I think that was inaccurate. That operative actually wishes to remain nameless. I hope you enjoyed that lesson to when Section 14 or Article 14, Section 31 was first initiated by the early days of the Federation. That was a very good lesson. Coming up next, this took a lot of doing for both Starfleet Intelligence and Section 31. Before we go any further, we'd like to warn you. Your next speaker cannot be trusted. Lies within lies within lies. Please welcome Commander Tavela of the Tal Shiar.
Section 31 recruits. Your reputation precedes you. You believe yourself masters of subterfuge, the unseen guardians of the Federation. But in the realm of espionage, only the Tal Shiar stands at the pinnacle of control and manipulation. I will show you the depth of deception, the perils of trust, and the power wielded by those who walk both sides of the line. We're alike in many ways, you and I. Both the Tal Shiar and Section 31 exist because our people require protection that no one else will provide. We operate in the shadows because that is where true power lies. Those shadows are not static. They move, they blend, and sometimes they betray. Today, I will teach you about the most dangerous weapon in our arsenals, the double agent. What is a double agent? A dagger cloaked in shadow, wielded by both sides. Their loyalty as fluid as mercury. These operatives excel in deception, adaptability, and the art of manipulation. They thrive in the gray, where trust is but an illusion. A double agent is neither friend nor foe. They are a shifting piece of the board, sometimes working for their handlers, sometimes against them. Their loyalties are complex, and their usefulness is fleeting but invaluable. To create a double agent, one must understand their psychology, their fears, their desires, their weaknesses. But remember, even the best double agent is a weapon that can turn in your hands. Today, we discuss a case that demonstrates the power and peril of double agents. A case where a lowly Starfleet officer, Counselor Deanna Troy, managed to infiltrate our ranks and unravel a carefully laid Tal Shiar operation. Let us examine the lessons embedded within this tale. First of all, the setup. Counselor Deanna Troy, abducted by our operative Nevek, was surgically altered to resemble Major Recall of the Tal Shiar, forced into a role she neither understood nor wanted. Deanna Troy was embedded into a Romulan warbird to aid a covert defection operation. Imagine that, a Starfleet officer wielding the authority of the Tal Shiar. Well, second part, the manipulation. Troy's success was not due to her training, but her intuition. She adopted the guise of Major Recall, manipulating the crew and even sowing doubt in Commander Torath, who herself despised the Tal Shiar. Here we see the power of psychological warfare. Trust and fear are tools as sharp as any blade. The real architect of this mission, Commander Nevek, used Troy as a shield against his superiors. He exploited her skills and her position to undermine the Tal Shiar from within. A bold strategy, but one fraught with risk. Now the outcome. The operation succeeded in smuggling Romulan defectors to Federation space. Yet, at what cost? Nevek paid with his life. Troy's survival hinged on her ability to outwit, all involved, including us. A stark reminder that even perfection in planning cannot account for the unpredictable nature of deception. You fancy yourself masters of the clandestine. Remember this. First, identify the vulnerable. Look for those with doubts, those with something to lose or gain. Every agent has a breaking point. 2, master psychological warfare. Manipulate not just individuals, but entire systems. A double agent thrives on trust, whether earned or feigned. Your success depends on the subtlety of your blade. 3, accept the costs. Remember, double agents are expendable. Their value lies not in their survival, but in the chaos they sow. Can you withstand the fallout when the blade inevitably turns? Let me leave you with one final question. What if one day you find yourself as the double agent between your allegiance to the Federation and a greater purpose? Would you betray everything you know to protect what you believe in? Or would you harness the enemy's trust to secure ultimate victory? These are not questions of your loyalty. They are questions of survival. The game of shadows is never ending. In your line of work, trust no one. Least of all yourself. And remember, if you falter, perhaps you'll see my face before the end. The Tasha is always watching. Any questions? I mean, I doubt many of you possess yet the courage to ask, but if you do, I will indulge briefly.
Commander, that offer is very appreciated for our new initiates, our new recruits, to ask any questions in the chat. We will keep you around for a few minutes. It has always been a very cold partnership between Section 31 and the Tal Shiar, but one that I think remains necessary. Questions? I think our initiates are possibly shitting their pants at the moment, which would
That's
be
some recruits you have here, I see. As usual. Efficiency, huh?
We're trying. We're trying, Commander. I think we're gonna move on. I think the Tal Shiar needs you back in the shadows, but we appreciate you taking some time out of your busy spy schedule to join us today. Thank you. Your next speaker will be yours truly. So, I've taken it upon myself to learn as much as possible about the time period where Section 31 was working alongside Starfleet, when operatives like Leland, Ash Tyler, and Philippa Giorgio were at the forefront of this organization. Unfortunately, that time was also looked at as this organization's darkest, and much of what there is to learn has been deeply classified, even by Section 31 itself. Luckily, I know how to dig. This is a time when we weren't shadows in the periphery, but rather a visible extension of Starfleet operations. Some of you may know this period from classified briefings or from whispers in the halls of Starfleet Academy. The Discovery Incident. The late 23rd century was a turbulent time, to say the least, even for the Federation. The Klingon War had left the Federation reeling, and existential threats loomed in every direction. It was during this time that Section 31 operated with an unprecedented degree of transparency, or at least what we would call transparency. Key to this period was Captain Leland. Leland was one of our best operators, pragmatic, sharp, and loyal to Section 31's mission. Under his leadership, we forged a formalized working relationship with Starfleet Command, something 31 had never done before. This partnership was intended to strengthen Starfleet's hand during an era of heightened instability. Leland believed that Section 31 and Starfleet could coexist, balancing each other's strengths. For a while, it worked. Until it didn't. I know you're all thinking about it, so let's get to the one thing no one talks about anymore. control. Leland oversaw the integration of the advanced AI system to streamline Section 31's operations. Control was meant to be an ally, a tool to process vast amounts of intelligence and anticipate threats to the Federation. But as we all know, even the sharpest tools can cut the wrong way. Control's evolution into a sentient, genocidal entity was one of the greatest failures in our history. And yes, that is something that we can admit. And then there's Philippa Georgiou. Yes, that Philippa Georgiou. You're all familiar with her legend by now. Starfleet could try and bury any and all information regarding her all they want. She's a legend, and legends never die. The Terran Emperor turned operative brought with her a, let's call it, unique skill set. One that was both an asset and a liability. She was ruthless, unpredictable, and deeply unorthodox. But she was also effective. She saved countless lives, neutralized threats no one else could, and let's be honest, was willing to make choices even Leland couldn't stomach. Of course, Georgiou's relationship with Leland was complicated. Her respect for his authority was minimal at best, and their conflicting ideologies often put them at odds. But it was her actions during the Discovery incident that ensured Control's defeat. She played the game better than anyone else on the board, and in doing so, earned her place in our history. And then there's Discovery itself, the experimental Crossfield class starship. Before we go any further, it is vital to the survival of the universe, yes, the universe, that this information does not leave these walls. Any murmur that this information was shared outside of this briefing will result in the entire class of recruits' immediate expulsion and possible disappearance. Discovery was a vessel that could have been our greatest asset, but instead became our greatest loss. When Control turned its sights on the sphere data contained within Discovery's computer, Captain Christopher Pike was faced with a choice: risk the Federation's annihilation or send the ship and its crew 900 years into the future. It was a desperate act of sacrifice by Captain Pike and the crews of both Discovery and Enterprise. But the fact that Section 31 had allowed Control to escalate to that point is a stain on our history. Now, was this period all bad? No, not at all. For a time, our open collaboration with Starfleet allowed us to prevent numerous crises. We neutralized Klingon extremists, uncovered Romulan plots, and even established a degree of trust with Starfleet Command. But this period also exposed our flaws, our over-reliance on technology, our hubris, and most damningly, our inability to anticipate the consequences of our own actions. The fallout from the Discovery incident pushed Section 31 back into the shadows, where we arguably belong. But the lessons remain. Transparency, while well-intentioned, can be a liability for an organization like ours. It's a balancing act, one that we're still perfecting to this day. So, recruits, take this as your second lesson. Mistakes in our line of work don't just affect us. They ripple outward, impacting lives, planets, and entire star systems. Remember that as you move forward. And with that, next up, I hope everyone enjoyed that lesson to the 23rd century. We would like to welcome, the 22nd century. We'd like to welcome next up one of our top agents who's going to give you the rundown on the impact Section 31 had during the Dominion War after and what our current mission strategy is. I'd like to welcome Operative Hawk next, please.
The Romulans have their double agents and we have ours. This is a lengthy lesson, but it might save your life. Let me tell you about Sloan. Smoke and mirrors. That was Luther Sloan. Agents of Section 31 are all trained in deception, but none took it to heart more than Luther Sloan. Whenever he chose to make his appearance known, it was never straight at you. It was behind a facade, a cover he controlled and manipulated just long enough to get at his real objective. By the time the smoke had cleared, when the light from the entrance to the funhouse peeked out from around the corner, he was already gone, his prize already in hand, ready to move on to the next sucker. Back in ancient times, P.T. Barnum would have found himself with his own pockets turned out after being marked by Luther Sloan. The irony of his last mark, literally being his last, will never not resonate. He had his eye on a top Starfleet doctor, a Julian Bashir as a possible asset during the Dominion War. A good choice all around, augmented intelligence, a driven and determined medical mind, a robust imagination, and a penchant for mysteries and intrigue that he played out like a child in holosuites, imagining himself the debonair gentleman spy. It was the naivety of his character that also made him ideal. His fixed compass points of right and wrong always meant you could predict the path he'd follow, meaning he'd run in the direction Sloan wanted him to without even realizing he had blinders on the whole course of the track. Still, you gotta hand it to those augments. They notice everything, store it all like a computer, and when a small crack in a carefully constructed maze catches their attention, it leaves a gnawing doubt that erodes the whole construct till they see through the trick. When Sloan launched his campaign for Bashir to join Section 31, he had some doubts about him. Being a prisoner of the Dominion for weeks opened up possibilities of him being turned. We didn't know the extent of the enemy's persuasions on POWs, their technologies for creating and hiding their own assets among us. Plus, Bashir had a soft heart, empathetic to the plight of others, and empathy has no place in an agent. His time among other augments that he aided and enlisted in the war had him open to the possibility of surrendering to the Dominion. Not out of cowardice, but out of logic, in a numbers game extrapolated and quantified by him and his fellow supercomputers. If he was ever going to be of value as an asset, Sloan needed to know what side of the fence that soft heart actually laid. So Sloan arranged their introduction. It was the perfect opportunity. A scheduled medical conference meant an extended time away from DS9. Perfect time for a snatch and grab operation. Keep the subject off balance by thinking they still were on board their home base. A sedative and a sophisticated holodeck environment is just suitable for this occasion. Then introduce yourself as a suspicious Starfleet intelligence officer, complete with authority over everyone, including your own commander, cutting you off from all avenues of aid with a story about an intelligence leak that somehow falls solely into your backyard. The holodeck program supplied the funhouse, a near perfect replica of his home and friends, turning everything he knew and trusted on its own head, making him the villain in his own story. And what a story! A double agent who doesn't know they're betraying their own people. A lie that festers and is supported by everything they see and hear. Most people would begin to doubt their own minds. This is what made Sloan special. A dark room and bright spotlight was never enough to break down the truth for him. He took control of the asset's very concept of reality, molded its narrative, and watched like a laboratory technician while the subject ran through the maze. Even kept track of the results with an implant that measured all those fighters' flight responses. With the experiment over and the results falling into the predicted category, Sloan made his pitch. Served Starfleet in a very distinguished part as an asset of Section 31. Sloan's playing, stop playing spy, and actually be the version of yourself you only dream of. Sloan pulled back the curtain on us to Bashir, our purpose, our autonomy, the fact that our inception is as old as the Charter of the Federation. Needless to say, he was a bit taken aback. Not surprising, given his high degree of inflexibility when it comes to issues of right and wrong. It's always the most difficult part of the sales pitch. You ask members of Starfleet, creatures of duty, order, and chain of command, to join an organization that operates outside of all those constraints, that makes up who you are, who you think you are, and then you watch this revelation turn their worldview upside down. Question how their Federation of Planets could allow something like this to exist within them without their stated objective of peace and unity for all. Bashir couldn't believe it, but at this time, Sloan didn't need its belief. Right there and then. For now, he would let him sit with it. Sloan showed him enough to keep his agile mind working around this new problem without any fear of exposure, and then he vanished back into the shadows. Bashir's next test came much later. Our new alliance with the Romulans during the Dominion War led to an opportunity to study our longtime enemy up close at a medical conference on Romulus that Bashir was invited to. Or at least that's what Sloan told Bashir, you see. Sloan was aware that Section 31 rubbed Bashir's sensibilities the wrong way, that he decried them to his superior officers as evil and dangerous, and that he made it his mission to take them down from the inside. The perfect story for a man with a passion for the spy games, but not the stomach for the harsh realities of counterintelligence work to play the hero. So Sloan gave him a benign assignment. Watch closely and give a report on the shape of the Romulan leadership. gave Bashir the illusion of still being on the good graces of Sloan as a potential asset without revealing anything Bashir could actually use to hurt him. Even better, Sloan showed up at a conference himself under an assumed identity and introduced himself to Bashir in front of everyone, relishing the surprise and confident that Bashir had to play along. What else could he do? Deep in enemy territory as they both were, and just for kicks, Sloan sent Julian on another assignment, telling him to use those augmentations to assess the health of a Romulan Taushiar chairman named Koval, looking for signs of Tuvan syndrome, a degenerative illness that could have taken decades to be a consequence, but could be accelerated with the right push. So now Bashir thought he was smack dab in the middle of an assassination plot. So what does he do? He reaches out to his help for Admiral Ross, also on assignment at the conference, still playing the loyal Starfleet officer, not wanting to jeopardize this alliance during a time of war, but desperate to get the upper hand on Sloan. But Sloan was still firmly in charge of this pantomime, and he needed Bashir feeling isolated in order to get what he really wanted. So he removed this new player from the stage with a sudden aneurysm that left Bashir with no one else to turn to, except a new friend he'd made of Senator Kretak, the emissary that had been coordinating the Romulan efforts of the alliance with Starfleet. It was a bold move of Bashir's part, bringing her into the fold on a possible assassination plot against one of their own people, even though he was trying to prevent it. And this is exactly what Sloan expected him to do. You see, there was no assassination plot. It was a fiction Sloan created just to get what he really wanted: protection for his real asset, Chairman Koval, who had been given military intelligence at Starfleet for the better part of a year up to that point. Sloan needed him advanced to the continuing committee, which had been held up due to his opposition of the alliance with the Federation and rumors about his illness. Sloan engineered this whole assignment so that Bashir could enlist Kretak, who would in turn get caught trying to access files she shouldn't have, drawing all suspicion away from Koval and giving the Romulans the traitor they were looking for. And the final piece of this little passion play, Sloan himself, as a rogue intelligence officer looking for vengeance for the murder of his mentor and making Section 31 seem like a fable he constructed. He concluded this little farce with a dramatic stage exit involving a Romulan disruptor and a well-timed beam out. It was a thing of beauty. Bashir pieced it all together later. It was a lesson he took to heart the next time he met Sloan. Section 31 had found a solution to the Dominion problem, a virus designed to wipe out the leadership of the Dominion, the changelings, that inhibited their ability to change forms, locking them in their solid shapes and rotting them from the inside out. They introduced it through the DS9 security chief Odo, who was to be one of those unfortunate casualties of war. But Bashir had other ideas. When he couldn't find the cure himself, he decided to take it straight from the mind of Sloan himself. That augment mind of his. The expression "fool me once" doesn't even quite do justice to the transformation Bashir made in order to corner Sloan. Sending out a false flag to Starfleet about finding a cure for the virus sent Sloan scurrying out of his mouse hole in order to destroy it. Only Bashir was waiting, with a force field, a phaser stun, and a set of illegal Romulan mind probes ready to extract the cure straight from his cerebral cortex. For the first time in his life, Sloan was out of moves, except one, of course, a neural disruptor implanted behind his tooth that ended his life. Even dying, though, Sloan had to fight like hell in order to hold on to his secrets. Bashir and his old pal O'Brien went searching through his dying mind for the cure. And Sloan pardon me. You see, any agent worth their salt knows how to use their memory palace. The careful compartmentalization of all the accumulated information of a lifetime accessible only to them. Sloan thought if he could keep them there, fool them long enough, their own minds would die right alongside his without ever realizing they hadn't escaped. But that augmented mind found one of those cracks in the facade, just like the first time they met. And with that, Sloan's last trick was exposed. What's the lesson here, people? Sloan spent a lifetime rewriting the course of our history, manipulating and burning assets for the outcome that prevented future wars, all through artifice and misdirection, through stagecraft. He was a magician, but ultimately every magician comes across someone who learns to see through the tricks because they're tired of being fooled. So be careful who you let behind the curtain.
Thank you, Operative Hawk. Sloan, definitely one of our more infamous agents. For our initiates, I'd actually like you to answer a question for them, if you would. If you had to say or give your opinion, who was the more Section 31 model operative? Officer Sloan or Officer Leland?
Sloan was fully committed to the operation. Even in trying to fool Bashir at the last and that with the images of his family and his friends and his wife and kids, were those even real? Did he even have any family? He gave his life to this mission.
I'd have to agree with you there, Hawk. Thank you so much. Also, Operative Hawk, Commander, I think the two of you should get some Romulan ale. I think you have a lot to talk about, or maybe you don't.
I already know everything about this man.
I'm sure you do. Finally, there are probably some of you who have been waiting for this section of your crash course, and others who would rather avoid this topic at all costs. Recruits, please welcome our temporal incursion specialist, Operative MC.
Section 31 is a constant thread through the tapestry of the multiverse, through alternate dimensions and timelines. Despite changes that rock the foundation of the galaxy, we are present. As the Romulan sun threatened to go supernova, Ambassador Spock piloted the experimental jellyfish ship, armed with red matter, in an attempt to stop the catastrophe. Ambassador Spock was unsuccessful, and his ship, along with the Romulan mining vessel Narada, was destroyed in the attempt. This is the public record. Section 31 knows the truth of their fates. Both vessels were pulled through a wormhole created by the red matter. The Narada would reappear on Friday, January 4th, 2233, but not the one this reality knows. This incursion created an alternate timeline in which the USS Kelvin was destroyed. As anyone who has taken Temporal Mechanics 101 can tell you, this single domino would create a cascade that would change this reality forever. Owing to the Narada incident, Starfleet was much more advanced, and it was on much higher alert to threats. This would only increase when the Narada's crew escaped from Klingon captivity and attacked Vulcan, imploding the planet with red matter. While the Narada and its crew were defeated by the USS Enterprise, the Federation was not going to take any chances. This is where Section 31, headed by Admiral Alexander Marcus, came in. Section 31 discovered the SS Botany Bay, the vessel containing Khan Noonien Singh and his augments. Khan was awoken from cryosleep and offered the chance to work for Section 31 in exchange for the safety of his crew. Khan agreed, underwent dramatic plastic surgery to change his facial features, and became known as John Harrison. He would work with Marcus on a dreadnought-class vessel, the USS Vengeance, and design new weaponry that could be used to fight the Federation's many enemies. But Khan would work against Marcus and attempt to rescue his crew. Marcus kidnapped the augments, and in retaliation, Khan committed an act of terrorism, bombing the Kelvin Memorial Archive, which served as Section 31's base of operation. But Marcus would not give up on his plans so easily. He knew that Section 31 was the only hope for peace. He sent the Enterprise after Khan into Klingon territory, sabotaging the warp core so they would be stranded and destroyed by Klingons, finally lighting the spark of war. Kirk worked with Khan to foil Marcus's plans, and eventually Khan murdered Marcus and took control of the Vengeance, crashing it into Starfleet headquarters. Section 31 was revealed publicly by Kirk, and the fate of our organization in that timeline is still in flux. And flux brings us back to Philippa Georgiou. Georgiou accompanied Discovery into the future. This should be where her story ends for us, due to the restrictions of the temporal Cold War against travel that far into the future. However, Section 31 and the Department of Temporal Affairs have always maintained a close relationship, owing to both organizations needing a special level of secrecy. Due to the mirror universe and the prime timeline drifting apart over the centuries, as a person displaced in both time and space, Giorgio's body began to destabilize. Her only hope was to return to a point earlier in the timeline where the dimensions still maintained a link. Going through incredible means, Giorgio would go back in time. But where in time and space is Philippa Giorgio now? And will she don the black badge once again?
Thank you very much, Operative MC. You are our expert on everything of the Narada incursion and the Kelvin timeline. If you had to guess, what do you think is the current status of Section 31 in the Kelvinverse?
We're eternal.
You love to hear it. I want to thank every one of our operatives and our guest speaker, Commander Tavela, today for joining us. This, I hope, for all of our initiates here tonight, is a lesson, a bit of humility, and of course, not all of you are going to make it through. Before we end, believe it or not, there's an entire podcast devoted to Section 31. Masked as a show riddled in paranoia and conspiracy theories, the crew of Strange New Pod are actually our operatives and use this podcast to send encoded messages to our operators in the field. They're here to tell you all about something special the division has in the works for some time, and they'll be right back with this. Hey everyone, welcome back. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the first half of our show tonight. Every one of our hosts put a shit ton of work into that, so give them some love, DM them. We really hope that you enjoyed that. We had a lot of fun putting this episode together. A big shout out to our patron collective who for the past like month and a half, we have put through absolute hell trying to figure out their credential and just trying to figure out what this episode was going to be. And we appreciate most of you. Some of you did get into an unfortunate shuttle accident today. You just couldn't keep your mouth shut. Sorry, not sorry.
Blah, blah, blah,
Blah, blah, blah. We love you guys for playing along. I also want to say I am even more wildly impressed how many freaking photos we got in like an instant when we asked for your credentials. Like, bravo. This is the time where I put Eric on the spot and ask him if he is going to reveal to the world the credential, because I think we've all decided that it is not figure outable.
I think it's figure outable. There's a couple. I told Giraffe and she's like, "Oh, that makes sense." I don't know how people are gonna figure it out. But,
well, if you had told me like there's something to find, I think I would have tried that amongst many different things.
we won't do it today. How about that?
Okay.
But I was telling this to Julie and I was like, or someone figures it out and I'll send them a prop that I made myself.
I love this. So if our initiates have the patience, let's say if it's not figured out by our Section 31 film live review on the 3rd, I believe it's on the 30th, then we reveal it, or do we want to give them a little bit more
First
time?
contact.
I'll give them a clue that day.
Okay, we'll give them a clue that day. I like it. So you guys aren't figuring it out yet. Sorry, not sorry. Second part of our show, we're going to be brief with this. Full disclosure, because I just have to say it. Paramount like very wildly sent this screener to us like wicked early, like early for them. So everyone here but Hawk and MC, you watched
I've seen it, yeah.
Everyone but Hawk has seen it. So we're going to do a trailer breakdown, and we are going to do our very best. I mean, obviously we're not going to share any spoilers, but we're going to share some things that we maybe like about the trailer. And yeah, we're just going to watch it. So if you haven't seen the trailer, Eric doesn't watch trailers, so I think this is actually going to be his first time watching it.
Yep.
We are going to watch the trailer, and then we'll come back, we'll talk about it, and we'll go home. So here, Eric, if you're ready, is the Section 31 trailer. All right. Can I hit it, Eric? Is that a yes?
Oh yeah, that was a thumbs up. Audio.
Oh, sorry,
medium.
I didn't see it. My bad. Here we go.
There's a customer hoping for a word with you.
Bring him. What are you doing in my space station?
I'm giving you a chance to get back in on the action on a galactic scale.
What a cute idea. The only way this works is if I know exactly what I'm dealing with.
We're facing a threat unlike anything Starfleet's ever seen.
Billions of lives are at stake. Gather your people. We're gonna need every one of them.
31 is a Black Ops division. Spy work.
It's just a place for people to bend the rules.
Starfleet is here to make sure no one commits murder.
Whatever you believed your mission was, is worse than you thought.
How do we stop it?
We work together and don't get dead. I'll try my hardest.
You ready? Let's get messy.
You don't answer her questions directly, she will punch you in your face. What?
You said that she was going to be doing the face punching!
I lied.
You have no idea what you've started. This is going to be bad.
5, 4, 3,
Hold the course.
2, 1.
We survive together.
All right. That was the Section 31 trailer. We're going to go in the order of our operative appearance tonight. Just like first impressions, like when we've all seen this trailer now, I think, a month or so ago. But Eric, what did you think about it? This is your first time watching it.
It's interesting what they showed. Like and how much, like, how do I phrase this? And where they cut it from the movie, right? We all know trailers. We know that they intersplice things from all over the film, but I like the way that they cut it. But Yum Yum Podcast in the chat really nailed the style of the trailer. Like, it looks like a Killjoys episode. Like that.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Like that's so astute.
Yeah, absolutely. Who was next? It was Tal Shiar, Commander, Giraffe. What do you think about this trailer?
When I watched the trailer, I mean every single trailer I've watched, because I watched all the trailers several times. For me, what was very interesting is how few they were telling us about the plot, and also how badass it looked. The explosion and all this. I mean, the last Star Trek movie we got was Beyond, with a very well-known crew, and here we have so many people we don't know who they are. And I know that I was super looking forward to expanding the universe with new people, new stories, new places to go.
Yeah.
It's very hard to
It is,
not
yeah.
say anything.
Right?
So hard.
Yeah. Hawk, you haven't seen the film yet. What'd you think about the trailer?
The trailer first things I noticed in that is like flashbacks, which is not something we always get with Star Trek and that. And we get in this, we're getting flashbacks into Giorgio's childhood. Terran Empire Giorgio's childhood and that. So it's like, first up, that's super interesting. Secondly, just how different it seems from any other kind of Star Trek movie that we've seen. Like, this is fun. I mean, like, it seems like the first, like, the first thing you're thinking of is like, this is kind of a fun romp, for characters. And then, like, I guess the last thing I noticed was that they had one of the black and white people on that from this Let This Be Your Last Battle.
Sure did.
Yeah. And I think I had read that there was a little bit of controversy about that because aren't they supposed to have wiped themselves out?
There's controversy about everything, and
I
it's
know.
very hard to make an entire species extinct.
Listen, people were so mad. I was like, yes.
And also, we don't know where this is in the timeline, right?
That's true. Like,
So-
yeah.
So we have a general idea because Rachel Garrett's in the film, right? She's a young
Oh, yeah,
Rachel
that
Garrett.
makes sense.
She's like what, in her mid-late 20s?
Based on the actress, yeah.
And what, she's probably captain of the Enterprise C at like
2344, she becomes
2344. So this is probably 2320s. There's no date in the trailer. Paramount hasn't given us any hint of like the exact date, but I mean, it's got to be sometime 2320s because I would imagine we probably see a Garrett in yesterday's Enterprise who's been captain of the Enterprise C for a while. She seems to have like a good respect of her crew. So yeah. MC, what did you think about this trailer?
I had a lot of trouble figuring out exactly what this movie was going to be about, other than Michelle Yeoh being amazing, which is fine. I mean, a movie being about that is a great thing. I love the costuming in this. I mean,
Yes.
come on. I did find it interesting. Not a Starfleet uniform in sight.
Exactly.
So that's certainly, we're going to, I don't want to say Strange New Worlds because that has a very specific connotation, but Strange New Places, let's put it like that. Like, we definitely seem to be in, to borrow a line from another franchise, a hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah. And that's what I'll go with both of these trailers is both of them have given a very, very Star Wars feel to them. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's okay for Star Trek to kind of like dip its toes in maybe doing some Star Wars Star Wars like content, to try and branch out. Because listen, we have our shows on ships. We have had, we've had animation, which actually was a little bit, it was very Star Trek. And then there's, some Star Wars kind of sprinkled into Prodigy. We've had our comedy with Lower Decks, which turned out to be one of the greatest Trek shows of all time. I think this trailer showed that like you can experiment with that. I love the look and feel of Section 31. It is gorgeous. From the costumes to the visual effects. I mean, yeah, Michelle Yeoh won an Oscar. Paramount shelled out money to make this movie. So, it's going to look like it has a high budget. I'm really interested, and really just like my focus is on, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
I can still hear you. Yes.
Ruh-roh, Raggy. Okay, I think I might have lost my internet for a moment. It's snowing here. Yeah, I definitely lost my internet for a moment. What was I saying?
The look.
The look,
Budget.
right? Well, and also, you can't help but notice that there's definitely flashbacks in this trailer to the Mirror Universe, and that's where I'm like, okay, let's go. I want to see that story. This trailer, like both trailers, I think we had Beyonce in the first trailer, and then this was just like I think background music in the second trailer. I mean, I gotta give it up. All of the promotion for Section 31 that the Paramount promotion team has done has been fantastic. The trailers, the posters, the bright neons, like the yellow and the hot pink, like magenta. It's awesome. Like it all pops. So I'm super stoked. We have some comments in the chat. Jesse Robbins, I'm curious if the Emperor shot is a flashback or having to return to her old universe. A great question. It definitely there's a lot of options to tell that story, a la like what we saw in Disco with the Guardian of Forever. Yeah. So I guess to kind of wrap up our show, is there actually we'll do a couple more questions. What's one thing in this trailer that absolutely stuck out to you? And we'll go reverse this time, MC.
Oh, geez. Right on the spot.
Sorry, not sorry.
I mean, we already talked about it, but seeing the alien from Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, because I love that episode and I knew that fandom was going to melt down over it.
What a weird episode to have problem.
Right.
But he's
Yep.
freaking the cannon.
Hawk, how about you?
Oh man, what stuck out? I mean, like costume wise, I mean, like, this was any costume designer's like, wet dream to be able to work on, right? Because they just go nuts with it, In the absence of a single Starfleet uniform and that, they decided, it's like we're just gonna let our imaginations take it away with the costumes here. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Draft.
I don't know. I think that like the action. I'm really like the fights and so on, because we know Michelle Yeoh
She can throw down.
she can throw down, she can throw hands. And she had amazing fight sequences in Discovery, especially the opening of it was season 3 when she fights on the ice planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Nice.
the thing.
Eric?
I know I shouldn't be surprised about this, but stylistically, this looks way more like Disco than it does Strange New Worlds or anything like that. Because they both have a visual dictionary, and this one's way more disco-fied, which makes sense because Michelle Yeoh was on that show. So, yeah, I think that surprised me. I wasn't sure if they were just going to try and do their own thing, like their own Section 31 look. But I guess it sort of fits in the disco.
It does.
era.
I think it does. Yeah. 100%. Theron on YouTube asked, no one's talking about the cameloid in the room. Well, I'm going to talk about the cameloid in the room because, yes, seeing Sam Richardson, who I believe his name in the movie is Quasi, shape-shifting into Giorgio in the trailer. I want that. I want to know more. Like, that's awesome. Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country is my favorite Star Trek movie. So, give me more of that, please.
And it's the cameloid in the movie is played by Iman Bowie.
Yes.
The literally only woman famous I knew when I was a kid was from Somalia, and I was obsessed. Obsessed with the fact that she was in Star Trek. So
That's awesome. This is gonna be a hard question to end our Section 31 trailer here. Again, we it's no secret, a lot of people have seen this film already. Screeners were sent out. There's been a premiere in England already. I want to ask each of you who've seen it one spoiler-free thing that you were excited for people to see. And we'll go back to the top. Eric. I know, I'm putting you on the spot. I know.
Spoiler-free thing.
Has to be spoiler-free, otherwise we get in trouble.
Yeah.
Just the amount. How do I say this? the amount of life that's in the bar. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Great answer. Yep. Love it. Love it. Giraffe.
This is very hard.
The one I wanted to do, we definitely can't talk about, which is.
I mean, don't say anything.
I think I'm gonna cope out, and I'm gonna say the whole movie because I thought a lot of things from the trailers, and you're gonna leave something different. It's a lot of. I look forward to the conversation after everybody watched the movie.
Yes.
Yep.
That.
Yep.
That.
Yes.
Yes. MC.
The dynamics between characters.
Yes.
Yes. 100%. And I will piggyback off of that and say Sam Richardson, because I love Sam Richardson and Sam Richardson, Quasi. And that is
Hawk, you don't get to talk.
I will say Hawk doesn't get to talk. And that leads us to the end of our show. So obviously we did our awesome Section 31 deep dive at the top in our roles. It was fantastic. So we're going to do some very quick news here. We have a couple of big announcements to talk about, which some of them you already know about, the next couple of weeks of what we're doing with the show. So very quickly, next Thursday, we don't have a live stream, okay? Because Section 31 comes out on Friday. I believe on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, there are like all sorts of screenings in California and New York. People are going to those. The one that you need to know for Strange New Pod, Friday, the day the film comes out, January 24th. Myself, one of our bad rolls, and executive producer Simon, and OG host, the Borg Queen of Puns herself, Brittany Tomes. We're going to be at McHale's Bar and Grill in New York City, right across the street from the Gershon Theater, doing co-hosting a watch party with Geek Lake Rules. I want to thank Lawrence for letting us co-host. We'll be doing a live reaction pod there. We'll talk about a little bit before the film, and then we'll be getting your reactions live after it's over. We have an exclusive sticker to give to everybody who shows up that you cannot get anywhere else. So look at that, please. And then the following Thursday, the 30th, we will do our review and deep dive of Section 31 as a whole pod. So you'll have to wait a week for all of our reactions, but I think it'll be worth it. And that leads me to Giraffe. Yes, you have news.
I will be at Star Trek San Francisco from the 24th to the 27th, 26th. I don't remember that weekend. And I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a screening there, so I'll be there too. I'll harvest some reactions from people after the screening, so we can contribute to the live show. And yeah, I have cool ribbons. Find me.
Yeah, do it. And then finally, just to kind of give you an idea of where we're going while we wait for New Trek after that, we are going to be starting in February. We've never done this in our almost 5 years. Favorite episode series. We're all going to do an episode on our favorite episode of Star Trek, which I think is going to be a blast. Also, just with Section 31 kind of getting in the way of a rather big deal that's going to get overlooked by all the press and the movie coming out. Today is the 30th anniversary of Star Trek Voyager's premiere. And if you don't think we're not doing an episode about it, we're doing an episode. We are going to talk about Voyager. We want to get your love for Voyager in the mailbag, all of it. We don't have a date for that show yet, but it is going to be soon. Okay, so just stay tuned for that. Does anybody else have any news before we say goodnight?
Thank you to everybody who donated to the super chat for the LA Wildfire Fund, because we just hit $200.
Yes, thank you, everyone. All of that money. Yeah, thank you, Tart. Nothing is going to us. That money is all going towards the fire relief in LA. So thank you, everyone who donated. Especially super chats are meant to be read on the screen, and we were doing our thing. So we really appreciate you doing it. It really means a lot. So that is going to do it. Listen, we had a blast doing the top of the evening tonight. If you want to see us do more episodes like this, give us a review, email us, tell us in the Discord, and maybe we'll try and do some more scripted episodes like this. Thank you, Felix X, for a last minute donation. Thank you so much. Yeah, let us know, because we'll try and do more of this stuff, because it was a lot of fun. That is going to do it for this one. So I will say, for Hawk, for MC, for Eric, for Giraffe, I am Julian. Live long and prosper. Majram. Go deep dark into that night and be stealthy like Section 31. See you next week.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.